welcome to the hard sell where the stick in the swill-bucket rattles back. Hey, remember the late 90s? When the grungy angst of Generation X was finally dying down, the Cold War was a receding memory, history seemed to be over, and we all just sort of fermented in a haze of tasteful adult contemporary rock and cold psychological self-reflection. But it seems like a paradise compared with now. So let's revisit it via a nice, safe...
Have a break.
This was requested by James Heiner, who wanted to pay tribute to the late actor James Van Der Beek, who died stupidly young last month of colon cancer. His most famous role, for better or worse, was, of course, in sensitive teen angst drama Dawson's Creek, in which he played the title character, a sentient forehead. I never actually watched Dawson's Creek, despite being the appropriate age, because I just couldn't conceive of caring what happened in it. To this day I don't know anything about it, except it was about this Metalunan teenager in flannels. Katie Holmes was extremely cute, and the characters all had stupid names. I mean, Pacey. What the fuck is that? Also, a creek was involved, presumably, although how it belonged to Forehead Boy, I'm not sure. Anyway, it ran in this country on Sunday afternoons on Channel 4, as part of their T4 strand of teen-oriented programming. And if you're thinking the T must have stood for teen, you're wrong. It didn't actually mean anything, it just sounded vaguely cool. It actually started out as a kids' slot that skewed older as the day progressed, but before long the likes of Two Stupid Dogs were cordoned off outside of the strand, and T4 became fairly and squarely aimed at nursing 16 to 24-year-olds through their Sunday hangovers, or preparing them for them when it expanded to Saturdays as well. However, this break we're looking at actually predates all that. T4 launched with the Channel 4 Squares idents in the autumn of 1998. The very first series of Dawson's Creek, however, aired that spring under the increasingly moribund Circles motif. So this whole last minute or so of explanation was completely worthless. Ignore everything I just said. Let's just get on to the adverts, shall we? Now obviously this is a show aimed at teens and young adults, so you might be expecting a certain amount of trendy snack food. And you wouldn't be wrong, but you'd have to wait. Because first they want to sell you a car. Potentially your first. Now because you're a young person, they want to convince you that the car is cool and awesome, or whatever it is you say now. This may be tricky, because it's a Vauxhall Corsa. Let's watch.
In today's crazy world, you have to keep your defences up. So for your security, this Corsa has central locking, security deadlocks, and an electronic engine immobiliser. The Vauxhall Corsa, the small car for the real world.
The hell was that? Well, it was very 1998. Listen to that trip-hop soundtrack. Sorry for using the music journo term trip-hop. I know the likes of Portishead actively despise it. But since this is literally a commercial sellout example of the genre, I don't think it's an insult in this case. Anyway, this is a clear attempt at selling a car on its safety, not in the Volvo sense, but in the sense that it won't get nicked. It's got 50 levels of locks, an immobiliser, and a hidden spike in the seats that comes up if it detects an unfamiliar arse. No, not really. All of which are symbolised with terrifying police state imagery, because back then it was just an amusing metaphor and not a fact of daily existence. Plus, what might be Ronnie Ancona doing her sexiest voice, not so much for thematic reasons as because demographic research suggests young people are horny. I don't know that any of these elements actually succeeded in selling very many Vauxhall Corsas to the under-25s, though.
The Vauxhall Corsa, the small car for the real world.
purpose.
Well, the distressed look was fashionable in those days. I wouldn't call those distress so much as anguish to the point of suicidal agony, but it's all part of the gimmick, I'm sure. Yep, it's a Lion Bar, a tasty chocolate bar full of chewy caramel and rice, and with a cool animal mascot and or motif that makes advertising it fairly simple. Just find some sort of lion-based angle, preferably in tune with whatever demographic we're going for. And obviously, again, this is the Dawson's Creek watching demographic, so we've got young, beautiful people. I don't know who came up with that shot of the bar being pulled in two, shot so it looks vaguely like a roar, but I hope they got well paid for it, because Nestle seemed to have been really pleased with it. It debuted in the late 80s, I think, and it kept appearing into the 21st century. And it is a cool image, to be fair. Incidentally, the director of this advert was Snyder. I'm not doing a bit, this is part of his extensive 90s advertising CV. You may not have realised because of the relatively subtle use of slow motion.
My wife and I are very much in love. So now it's important I look after myself. Hey, sugar! My doctor says take it easy, but my wife, she's got me lifting weights. Oh.
Gold diggers are wacky. And they're also quiet in the news at the time, what with Anna Nicole Smith and all. Easy topical laughs all round. Just condense it into a minute-long comedy sketch, make sure a product is visible at least half the time, and stick a slogan at the end. To be fair, they do manage to tie the product in with the rather bleak and misanthropic premise.
Of course, I've been drinking Evian my whole life. Water don't come much purer. Filtered by the French Alps. I've never been fitter.
You see, she's being thwarted by the pure alpine mineral water of Evian, preserving his health and fitness despite her best efforts. They'll learn her for being young and hot.
Another night out, sugar? How can I tell you she likes older men? 'Cause you know, I think my taste buds ain't what they were. You sure this is Evian?
Does drinking fish water kill you? I feel like this was supposed to be an arsenic joke. Evian didn't used to taste so much like almonds, but it was vetoed at the last minute for being just a bit too dark. It still works. She wants to keep him from the real stuff because Evian is apparently fountain of youth water. And also she wants to have it all for herself for the same reason. But I can't shake the suspicion that they've pushed out of a poisoning-related punchline.
Purity, not just for the innocent.
Testing. 1, 2.
Generic indie rock is go. I assume that's what this setup is for. It's 1998 after all. Back when we still thought Gay Dad were a good idea. Actually, that's unfair. They weren't bad, they just had a terrible name.
New from Doritos. Smoother tasting, tangy cheese, the loudest taste on earth.
Frankly, there's bugger all to say about this advert. It's a 10-second wonder. Doritos were still relatively new to the UK. They'd been here 4 years, but they were already pretty well established. And now we have tangy cheese flavour as well as cool original and all the rest. Rejoice! Truly, this was the utopian future we were promised.
The loudest taste on earth.
And now, celebrities saying random names. Well, one of them's the Prime Minister.
Jeffrey Bartlett.
Betty Springham.
Bob Cox.
George Sayer.
Gordon Valens.
Di Jones.
Ethel Allison.
Cleo Kirkpatrick.
Dennis Gale.
David Jackson.
Sister Dilys Todd.
Mr. Todd.
Eric Anderson.
Miss Webb.
Okay then, fair enough I suppose. There's a few I could name as well. Well, one or two. But I won't. Of course, no one ever forgets a bad teacher either. In fact, those are generally seared into the memory even deeper than the good ones. My father, for instance, can name one whose surname is followed so closely and inevitably with the word bastard that it might as well be double-barreled, and of whom he has said he would happily drive to his grave to piss on it, no matter how far away it is, if only he knew where it was. I've got a couple of choice ones as well, about whom I don't quite feel that level of resentment, but then I was educated after the era of corporal punishment, but well into the era of passive aggression. So anyway, if you'd like to make that deep an impression on young minds, for better or worse, get in contact with the TTA. I guess in 1998 we were kind of running low on people who wanted to teach, what with all the stabbings and that.
Cheery corn and Cheerios.
Oh God.
Cheery corn and Cheerios.
How did Cheerios survive this campaign?
Cheery corn and Cheerios. Cheery rice and wheat. Cheery 4-grain Cheerios. Cheery good to eat.
You know, I remembered this jingle. I will probably always remember this jingle every time I see a box of the bastard things. But I didn't remember the visuals. It's a montage of bought-in stock footage. Well, about half of it is, anyway. Along with some newly shot stuff with the packet visible. But you'll never convince me that it's not just woman walking through cornfield 003 at the start there, or wheat farming scene 4 from some library or other. They have nothing to do with anything and don't even match stylistically, which makes the advert both disjointed and weirdly upscale looking in its pieces, because this is pretty high-grade stock footage, but inevitably less than the sum of its parts, which wouldn't have been very high in the first place, because it can't be stressed enough that this song is terrible.
And nutritious and delicious Cheerios, so good to eat.
It takes 4 whole grains to make the one and only Cheerios.
Cheerios, so good to eat.
It would barely pass muster in 1980 when Weetabix were doing this sort of thing.
When it's cold, it's Heatabix. When she's choosy, it's not too sweet to Bix. When he's hungry, it's Heatabix. When they need energy, it's run down the street to Bix. With all the goodness of wheat, it's complete to Bix. No wonder Weetabix is on Weetabix.
Have you had your daily wheat?
It's definitely not going to impress the teenagers in the current viewing audience. It's also out of date now in 2026. Cheerios are only made with 3 grains now, and corn and rice aren't among them. My headcanon is that they changed specifically to prevent this song from ever being used again.
Cheerios, so good to eat.
Open a box of Cheerios and...
Oh Christ, it's not done.
Open a box of Cheerios and if it cheers...
It means you're having a massive breakdown.
And if it cheers, you've instantly won a Vauxhall Corsa.
Oh. Well, that brings us nicely full circle anyway.
On a family World Cup trip.
Oh yeah, and there's a World Cup. Less than 6 weeks away, in fact. I'm surprised it didn't come up sooner in this break. And Cheerios were apparently the official breakfast cereal of the tournament, which I like to think means that every player in the 32 qualifying teams were required to eat a bowl every morning. Probably not, though. Wouldn't be surprised if they did that on Italian 90. You might explain why everyone found it so difficult to score goals at that tournament. I'm also going to question the gimmick.
Open a box of Cheerios and if it cheers, you've instantly won...
Special giveaways revealed, or not, when you opened the packet were nothing new. In fact, they bloody loved them in the 90s. To the point where Golden Wonder had their cake and ate it, with a piss-taking campaign where every pack was a winner, but 99.9% of the prizes were worthless. Things like a chess piece, or at best another bag of crisps, or a bit of fluff. To be fair to them, they did follow through if you actually bothered them about it, on at least one occasion anyway. But this Cheerios one is different, because instead of printing "You are a winner," or vastly more often, "Bad luck to Dongo, buy more cereal," it makes a noise. So my question is, how do they hide whatever makes the noise without it being incredibly bloody obvious it's in there when you pick it up, giving the game away? How do you weightlessly generate a cheering noise? Is it something to do with the manipulation of air, creating a burst of white noise that might be construed as sounding like cheering for legal purposes? Who knows? Cheerios did much better with their other World Cup tie-in, which was simply a box of cereal shaped like a football. Completely pointless and awkward, which is of course splendid. And something of a collector's item now.
Be an instant winner with Cheerios!
So anyway, that ends the break, and we're back with the impossibly beautiful teens again. In many ways, that was the kind of break you'd expect from a show like this. In terms of the products, yes, snack foods as predicted, a car because you're getting on for 17 and driving lessons, at least one desperate attempt to get you to think about your future, but also in the general style. The indie kid populating the Doritos ad with his concert duties, the aura of rough sex and US inner city setting of the Lion ad, the not as dark as it thinks comedy of the Evian advert. And then there's the cheap throwback bollocks of Cheerios, but they throw in some football at the end, just in case. And, because of what prompted this episode, let's end with a public service announcement. If you're over 40 especially, you ought to get a colonoscopy. It's not a very pleasant procedure, admittedly, and it's a right bloody faff to prepare for, but it's Disneyland compared to sodding bowel or colon cancer. And that is a bastard of a cancer. It hides. Short of a colonoscopy, it's tricky to detect, and if you don't catch it early, you're fucked. So get a colonoscopy, especially if you're over 40, and especially if someone in your family has had or died from colon cancer. There might be a predisposition. That was a public information film. And rest in peace, James Van Der Beek.
I don't wanna wait for our lives to be over. I want to know right now, what will it be? I don't wanna wait for our lives to be over. Will it be yes or will it be sorry? So open up your morning light and say a little prayer for right. You know that if we are to stay alive and see the love in every eye.
This has been a Bob the Fish production, one of dozens you can watch right now for free on bobthefish.org.uk. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell, and join us on patreon.com/applemask to support further productions and gain fabulous exclusive content, like my ongoing history of the BBC, your day's viewing on a random day in history, even a few exclusive mini video essays. Plus the satisfaction of knowing that thanks to you, I get to eat regular meals. bobthefish.org.uk. We care because you do.